Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. So this week I've got, I did a guest article on a blog last week and that was about things that you can do to make sure that you don't confuse your readers. So whatever kind of text you're writing, and also whether you're a native speaker or someone who's learning English, these tips can help you to write better text that don't confuse your readers. So that's going to be our main topic for today. I also wanted to share the good news with you, which is that my book, Feel Confident Using Your Business English, is now available. So you can buy it from Amazon and it's available now, or it's also available for pre-order from a number of other places such as iBooks. So you can pre-order it now and then the book itself will be available on the 15th of March. So if you're interested in finding out more about the book, I will link it from the show notes page, but there's a specific page on it on my website about it, which is www.englishwithkirsty.com/book. So nice and easy. englishwithkirsty.com/book. And the book is about business English. But it's not a book that you have to read from cover to cover. So there are 50 chapters in there and they all cover different problems or situations in which you might find yourself. So you can just look through and see which ones are relevant to you. So the chapters are, they can just be read on their own. They don't follow in a specific order, but then there are sections such as using English at work, and then under there are things like I don't understand my English speaking colleagues, I hate speaking English on the telephone, and then there are chapters about career and networking. So that's the kind of, I need to apply for a job in English, I find it difficult to have general conversations, it's hard to say no. There's information about language and grammar and tenses, such as common mistakes with tenses, things to avoid, and how to make sure that you translate well if you have to translate something from your native language into English. And then there's something about finding out what works for you, because everybody learns differently, such as, you know, if somebody has a problem that they don't have enough structure to their language learning, or their vocabulary is too basic for interesting conversations, and it's hard to stay motivated is another one. And then there are some problems with language learning and how to fix them, such as I don't feel that I'm making progress. I've tried various courses, but none of them worked. And then at the end, there are some general tips. So if you want to find out more about that, it's www.englishwithkirsty.com/book. Okay, so now on to the main part of this podcast, which is about confusing your readers. So whenever you write a text, whether it's an email or an article or a report, you need to start by having three things in mind. And the three things are, who are you writing for? Who's your audience? Because that's going to affect how you choose your words, which words you choose, the style, how much knowledge you think these people will already have about what you're talking about. The second thing is know your reason for writing. So what do you want to do? Do you want to educate them? Do you want to entertain them? Do you want to ask them to take some kind of action? Why are you writing this text? And the third thing is, so you know who your reader is, you know why you're writing to them. And the third thing is, make it easy for them to A, understand you, and B, know what you want them to do if there is an action at the end. So I've got a list of things here that you can do or you can think about to make sure that it's as easy as possible for your readers to understand you and for you to make sure that you're not confusing them. So one is structure the text. Even if you have loads of ideas in your mind, when you finish there needs to be some kind of structure, and it will be different depending on what the text is, but you need people to be able to read it and understand your thought flow, why you have an introduction. Do you want to break your text down into points, as I have here? You don't have to, but that's an option to make it easy for people to see, okay, there's this section, then this section. Are you telling a story? If you are, then can people follow through the story? Or if you're explaining why something has happened, can they understand the reasoning? If you're arguing that something is right or wrong, can they follow your arguments? Is it balanced? All those kind of things. So I generally write headings and then fill out the text that way. Some people prefer to get all their ideas down first and then structure them afterwards. It doesn't matter how you do it, but when it's finished, there needs to be clear structure for the reader to follow. So point 2 is about be consistent, and this is, well, you need to be consistent anyway, generally, but when I wrote this I meant more about the type of language you use, and I used an example of a company that had written a text and it kept changing. So it started with customers will, and then it said you will, and then it said learners will, because it was about a course, and it was just confusing. So if you're talking about what customers, what kind of experience the customers will have, then stick with customers and don't suddenly change to you as a prospective customer. That just doesn't work. It makes it untidy, and I think this happened in this particular text because it was a cut and paste job. The information had been pulled from all kinds of places and put together, and that's probably how these different ways of referring to the customers came in, because the different parts had been written by different people. So be aware, if you're doing that, then check that your text flows nicely if you're pulling pieces in from different places. But yeah, just generally think about how you're referring to people and keep it the same. I had a problem when I was writing a text and I realized I was talking about students, then customers, then learners. Sometimes it is okay to mix things up a bit, but the way that I'd done it looked a bit untidy, so I had to go back and fix that. So number 3, acronyms and abbreviations. They may be clear to you, but are they clear to everyone? It's best to write things out the first time, unless it's something really obvious that everybody knows, or something that we never write out, like IE or something like that. But if you're using acronyms or abbreviations, just be kind to your readers and write them out the first time, and then you can use the abbreviation afterwards, and people, even if they'd never heard of it, they will still know what it is because you've written it out the first time. Number 4, something I often talk about, so I won't go on about it for long, but long sentences. Try not to make your sentences really long and difficult to read. And if you're not sure if something's difficult to read, then read it aloud, because if it's hard for you to read it aloud, it'll probably be hard for your readers to read as well. So just think, if you're somebody that's likely to write lots of long, complicated sentences, just make sure that they all need to be that long, and consider whether some of them would be easier to read if they were several shorter sentences. Number 5, don't assume that everybody knows what you're talking about. So you'll know who your readers are. If it's your team at work, then the chances are that people will have a better idea of what you're talking about. If you're writing for a blog, you may know your general reader profile, but there may be new people coming as well. So don't assume that people know too much information. If you think that people may not know, you can include links or tell them where they can get further information about the particular topic that you're talking about. But if it's important for them to understand what you're saying, don't assume that they know as much as you do about this particular topic. So try to pitch it right. Try to think about the level of understanding that your readers will have, and then pitch it accordingly. Number 6, make it easy for people to identify what you want them to do. So if you do want them to comment or respond or to take some form of action, don't hide it. Make it nice and clear. Highlight it in some way, or repeat. If you mention it in the middle of the text, repeat it at the end. Just make it really clear for them to identify quickly what action you want them to take. Number 7, just something that I notice from time to time, be consistent with dates. I generally have one date format that I use and stick to that, but I wouldn't say there's a right way and a wrong way, but don't keep changing the way that you write dates, because it will confuse, or could confuse, your readers, and it looks tidier if you keep to the same format all the way through your text. Number 8, it's similar to the long sentences, but it's make sure that all the words add value. So I know someone who used to strip their text back so much that it was just the bare bones left, and I'm not saying that you should do that, because I think if you try to get as few words as possible, then you can lose something in terms of your writing style and the way that the text flows. But equally, if you're somebody that does tend to use a lot of words, then just make sure that they all add value. Firstly, make sure that you're not going off on a tangent to talk about something that isn't really relevant. It might have been in your head and important to you at the time, but it doesn't really add value to the text. So those kind of sentences or paragraphs could go. But also think about the way that you say things, and do you really need all of the words, or would it be clearer if you chopped out some of the unnecessary filler words? So they were my 8 points. I hope that was useful. And before I go, I just wanted to say that I was really pleased to receive a review on iTunes the other day. It says, "Kirsty does an incredible job teaching English," which is always nice to hear. And this is from Harold Ree at Paw Print, and he also has a really good podcast. If you're interested in animals and animal rescue, I definitely recommend that you listen to that. And the review says, "If you want some sensible English reminders and tips, Kirsty is your person. Love this show." And that's great. So thank you for the review, and if anyone else wants to leave me a rating or review, that would be fabulous. And apart from that, if you want to read the article that I'm talking about, this How Not to Confuse Your Readers article, I will include a link to that on the show notes page, which is www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 32. And I'll also include the book link on there, but you can go straight to englishwithkirsty.com/book if you want to know more about that. So I hope you have a good week, and I'll be back again next week. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.